Hi everyone. So in this video, as a part of the sequence on Virgil's Aeneid, books 3 and 4, we're going to be talking about the Punic Wars and Carthage. So we've mentioned this already in the brief history that I gave about Rome and its relationship with the rest of the Mediterranean. But for today, we're going to be talking specifically about the city Carthage, where Dido is from in the Aeneid, and the wars between Rome and Carthage, known as the Punic Wars. And they're known as the Punic Wars because the word Punic in Latin means Phoenician. And as we know from the Aeneid, Dido, the leader of Carthage, the woman who founded Carthage, is a Phoenician. So what was Carthage? Carthage was a powerful city located near present-day Tunis in Tunisia along the Mediterranean coast of Africa. It was a Phoenician colony founded around 800 BCE, and as I just said, Punic is the Latin for Phoenician. Carthage had a large commercial empire. There were really, really great merchants around the Mediterranean, just as the Phoenicians were before Carthage was founded. So Carthage itself had a really big, amazing harbor, and carried on these traditions of sailing and trading that the Phoenicians were known for. And because of this, they controlled most of the trade in the Western Mediterranean. So Carthaginian trading spread out to the islands of Corsica, Sardinia, and western Sicily along the southern Iberian Peninsula in modern-day Spain. Okay, so basically everything in the Mediterranean east of Italy was in Carthage's control and in their domain. Okay, so you can see on the map here, we talked about this map previously in terms of how the Roman Empire expanded from its original territories just around Rome, the city itself, into all of Italy, and then eventually into Carthaginian territories, which here you can see partially in green. Everything to the west of Italy there was was not part of the Carthaginian Empire. And then after the death of Caesar in 44, we eventually gained in everything at the orange. Okay, so let's jump into the Punic Wars. How many were there? Well, there were three. The first one, the Romans fought the Carthaginians from 264 to 241 BCE. They were mainly fighting over Sicily. Okay, Rome won that one. So in number 2, Punic War number 2, they fought between 218 and 201 BCE. Rome challenged Carthaginian expansion in Iberia, the Iberian Peninsula, modern-day Spain. Rome won there too. You can sense a pattern here. And in 149 to 146 BCE, Rome fought Carthage for the third and last time because they feared Carthage was becoming a threat again, which they really weren't. This was just honestly kind of overkill. But at the end in 146, Rome attacks Carthage for the last time and obliterates it for good, right? We have this idea of the Romans salting the earth in Carthage, which didn't actually happen, but they tell this legend of Rome in the Third Punic War utterly destroying Carthage and salting the earth so that nothing will ever grow there ever again. They wanted to completely wipe them off the map. So about the First Punic War. Carthage and Rome fought for 23 years over the control of Sicily. That's the island next to Italy that forms the boot, the soccer ball if you think of Italy as a boot, kicking a soccer ball. What were the relative strengths of each side? So the Romans had a really, really strong army, right? We know Romans had legions and this very organized military system. They were very good at that. They had everything figured out in that term. However, the Carthaginians had a really amazing navy, right? They were really wonderful traders, and they had traversed the Mediterranean for years, and so their navy was incredible. Rome's solution was to build up its navy. That makes sense. You're fighting on an island. Your opponent has ships. They can just obliterate you right off the base. So Rome builds 4 fleets. Each one of them were destroyed until they actually mastered naval warfare. They mastered it by coming up with this new idea for a weapon called the grappling hook. Okay, and so with the grappling hook, Rome was able to attach ships together. Right, they would come up alongside someone's ship, throw over the grappling hook, reel them in, and forced the ship crews to fight one-to-one on deck as if they were a land army. Okay, and so this was pretty brilliant because it made use of the Romans' hand-to-hand fighting strength. Right. So with this grappling hook and with its built-up navy, Rome eventually won, and Sicily becomes a province of Rome. Fast forwarding to the Second Punic War. Okay, this was a war of retribution. A new generation of Carthaginians had grown up, and they were really pissed off at what happened. And at the head of these was General Hannibal Barca. Okay, so he was on the Carthaginian side, and he led Carthaginians against Rome in the Second Punic War. His main opponent, the one that rose to the top, was the Roman general Scipio Africanus. Okay, and Scipio gets the name Africanus attached onto him, Africanus being like Latin for Africa, essentially, for all of his victories that he wins in Africa during the Second Punic War. So just briefly to talk about each side, Hannibal led 60,000 men and dozens of elephants through Spain, along the Mediterranean coast, through Gaul, okay, so through like that southern region of France, and across the Alps and into Italy. Okay, this is very famous. I'm sure you've heard of it before. Hannibal then spent 15 years fighting in Italy. He won tons of battles. It was unprecedented how many battles he won. And he eventually wins the Battle of Cannae in 216 BCE, which was incredible. He outwits the Romans in hand-to-hand combat on land, and the Romans lose over 50,000 soldiers, which was just an unprecedented amount of men to lose in a single battle, and the most the Romans ever lost in any battle. So this was a devastating blow to Rome. Okay, but even with the success, Hannibal could never capture the city of Rome for lots of reasons. On the flip side, Scipio led an army against Carthaginian Iberia while Hannibal was doing this, so he went to Spain and led forces there, and then eventually he led an army against Carthage itself. Okay. Then he returned to Italy to defend the city of Rome before going all the way back to Carthage for the Battle of Zama in 202, which was the last battle of the Second Punic War. Okay. And so at the Battle of Zama, General Scipio and Hannibal face off. This is Hannibal's first and only defeat. Hannibal and the Carthaginian forces are defeated, and they escape and return back to Carthage. Zama is a town just outside of Carthage. So after this battle, Carthage has lost in the Second Punic War, and it has to agree to certain terms. These terms are that Carthage loses its naval fleet in perpetuity. It has no longer a claim to Iberia, modern-day Spain, and the larger part of its territory in northern Africa is given over to the Romans. So you can see here a map of Hannibal's journey. He starts off in Saguntum, which is over here on the coast of Spain, okay, and then he goes all the way up to into Gaul, into the Alps, and goes along here. You're going to learn a lot more about Hannibal's journey with an interactive kind of online narrative I've constructed for you all, which I'll be posting on the Blackboard site. So we're only going to spend a brief moment on this. But lastly, let's talk about the Third Punic War. So in 149 BCE, Rome declares war on Carthage yet again, and to resolve this, Carthage is required to send 300 noble children to Rome as hostages. The city of Carthage has to be destroyed and rebuilt away from the coast, so removing its status as a port city. Carthage can have no mercenaries. They're forced to defend their own city. The Romans institute a successful siege of the city. They burn Carthage all the way to the ground, and the entirety of Carthage becomes a Roman province. So all the men are killed, and the women and children are sold into slavery. And this is pretty much the end of the Punic Wars. There's a lot to these that we don't really need to know for the purposes of reading the Aeneid, so I haven't gone into all that much detail here. You're welcome to read up more on it in different places. If you're interested, just email me and I can send you more information. But this is pretty much all you need to know to really get a grasp on what's happening with the Aeneid. And so all of this information is going to be instrumental to understanding why there's all of these episodes with Dido and Carthage, okay, in books 1 through 6. And so we'll be talking about that in the next video.